For years, I stayed silent. I believed it was my duty, my responsibility to my family, my faith, and to him. But silence is fragile. It can only bear so much weight before it shatters beneath the crushing force of truth. She begins her account with a voice that is steady, yet imbued with raw emotion. These pages, she says, contain the story of a man admired by the world, a man she once admired too. But what happens when the person you think you know, the one you've built your life around, turns out to be someone entirely different? For too long, she ignored the warning signs. She brushed aside whispers and found ways to justify actions that now feel impossible to excuse. But the weight of her silence has become unbearable. It's time for the truth to come out, she declares. What secrets did Pastor John Gray keep hidden for all these years? And why has his wife chosen this moment to reveal them? Pastor John Gray is known as one of the most dynamic and charismatic preachers of his generation. His eloquence, humor, and relatability made him a beloved figure in the Christian community, where he quickly gained a devoted following. From his sermons and motivational speeches to his books and social media presence, John Gray became more than a pastor. He became a household name. His message of faith, love, and commitment resonated deeply with his congregation. He often referenced his wife and children in his sermons, portraying them as shining examples of God's blessings in his life. To the outside world, Pastor Gray embodied the perfect image of a devoted husband, father, and spiritual leader. His alignment with the prosperity gospel movement amplified his reach even further. His messages of hope, abundance, and divine favor attracted millions, expanding his influence beyond the pulpit. But behind the scenes, a different story was unfolding, one far more complex and troubling. While John Gray basked in the spotlight, his wife worked tirelessly in the background, a steadfast partner in both life and ministry. From managing their home to overseeing church activities, she played a pivotal role in supporting his vision. Yet, her sacrifices often went unnoticed. As John's fame grew, so did the pressure to maintain an image of perfection. She greeted congregants with grace, smiled for cameras, and upheld the illusion of a harmonious life. But the demands of their public persona began to take a toll on her. Subtle cracks began to appear in their seemingly flawless facade. She noticed inconsistencies in his behavior, unexplained absences, emotional distance, and moments that felt increasingly out of place. Doubts crept in, but she dismissed them, clinging to her faith and her role as the pastor's wife. The weight of these doubts grew heavier with time, compounded by the unspoken expectation that she remain silent. After all, her role demanded unwavering loyalty and support, even when her heart was burdened with unanswered questions. Hints of trouble began to surface, first as faint whispers within the congregation. Observers noted her absence at major church events where she had always been a fixture. When she did attend, her smile seemed forced, her demeanor subdued. Whispers of tension between the couple began to circulate. Behind closed doors, the reality was far more turbulent than anyone could have imagined. One day, while organizing their home, she stumbled upon a folder hidden in a desk drawer. Inside were financial records that didn't align with the church's official accounts. The documents revealed lavish expenditures, extravagant trips, high-end designer purchases, and questionable business ventures, all funded by money meant for ministry work. Her discovery didn't stop there. A deeper betrayal lay waiting on his phone, personal messages that carried the unmistakable undertones of infidelity. Confronted with her findings, John Gray initially denied any wrongdoing, but his evasive answers only deepened her sense of betrayal. During a heated argument, years of unresolved issues and hidden pain came rushing to the surface. The life she thought she knew, the man she had dedicated herself to, was not what it seemed. What followed was a decision that would change everything. She chose to speak out. No longer willing to shoulder the burden of silence, she revealed the troubling realities she had uncovered. Financial misconduct, church funds entrusted by loyal congregants had been used to fund personal luxuries. Bank statements, receipts, and invoices painted a damning picture of extravagance at odds with the church's mission. Infidelity and emotional betrayal. Evidence of extramarital relationships emerged, along with years of emotional manipulation. For years, she had endured this in silence, prioritizing the appearance of a harmonious partnership over her own well-being. Spiritual conflict. She disclosed deep disagreements about the direction of their ministry, particularly its focus on prosperity and material wealth. While John preached abundance, she had grown increasingly uncomfortable with the disconnect between their teachings and their personal actions. Her revelations sent shockwaves through the church and beyond. The congregation, once united, found itself bitterly divided. Some staunchly defended John Gray, pointing to his years of service and the lives he had touched. Others, feeling betrayed, demanded accountability and transparency. Heated debates broke out during church gatherings, fracturing the community they had worked so hard to build. The story quickly became a national headline, with news outlets and social media platforms dissecting every detail. Prominent Christian leaders weighed in, some calling for grace and others demanding justice. Amid the chaos, Pastor John Gray issued a public statement. Speaking from the pulpit, he denied the allegations of financial misconduct, but admitted to personal failings in his marriage. "I have let my wife down, and for that, I am deeply sorry," he said. For his wife, the journey to reclaim her voice and her truth had only just begun. The revelations marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where her story could no longer be overshadowed. She and John announced plans to undergo counseling and step back from public life to focus on healing their marriage. Whether their efforts will succeed remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the silence that once held her captive has been shattered. Strength, as she says, isn't about never falling. It's about rising every time you do. And sometimes the hardest part is being honest with yourself. As the weeks passed, both John and his wife navigated the aftermath of the revelations. Their personal lives and the ministry's future hung in the balance. The emotional upheaval was palpable. Friends and family described the difficult conversations, the tears, the anger, and the frustration that dominated their private moments. The couple's children, caught in the middle, had to bear witness to the strain that threatened to undo everything they had once known as a family. The toll of the scandal was evident in the quiet moments they spent together, now loaded with unspoken words and questions about the future. "This isn't just about us," she told him during a particularly emotional moment. "It's about the legacy we're leaving for our children and this church." The weight of her words lingered in the air, a stark reminder that the consequences of their actions would stretch far beyond their own marriage. The pressure from the public, both from supporters and critics, was overwhelming. On social media, people expressed a wide range of opinions. Some urged her to leave him, calling for a clean break and a fresh start. Others insisted on forgiveness, encouraging her to stand by her husband and to help restore his tarnished reputation. The emotional strain intensified as the couple struggled to balance their own desires with the expectations of the world around them. Within the congregation, whispers of discontent swirled through the pews. The church had always been a place of solace and community, but now it was fractured. Some members remained fiercely loyal to Pastor Gray, clinging to the image of the man they had admired for so long. Others, however, felt deeply betrayed. They questioned how someone who had preached so passionately about faith and integrity could have violated those very principles. The community's trust had been shattered, and rebuilding that trust seemed like an impossible task. As the couple struggled to navigate the emotional and spiritual turmoil, there were moments when separation seemed like an inevitable outcome. Reports emerged that his wife had confided in close friends about the possibility of stepping away from both her marriage and the ministry. "I need to find myself again," she admitted, a poignant expression of the deep internal conflict she was facing. Yet, despite the overwhelming pain and heartbreak, both found solace in their shared faith, which became the guiding force that influenced their decisions. After weeks of counseling and prayer, they made the difficult decision to take a step back from public life. This time, it wasn't about the ministry, the church, or the public persona they had built. It was about healing their relationship. In a joint statement, they announced their commitment to seeking healing, not only for themselves, but also for their family and church. This was a journey, not a quick fix, they stated, acknowledging that their road to recovery would be long and fraught with challenges. In the aftermath of their public statement, the couple began the difficult process of redefining their roles within the church. His wife, once a quiet partner in the background, took on a more prominent leadership position, focusing on community outreach and transparency. It was a way for her to assert her own voice and to contribute in a meaningful way, not just as the pastor's wife, but as an independent leader in her own right. John, on the other hand, began to focus on spiritual renewal, taking time to reflect on his personal failings and the changes he needed to make in order to rebuild trust with his wife and his congregation. His commitment to increasing transparency within the ministry was evident when he announced the establishment of a new financial oversight committee, pledging regular updates on the church's expenditures. It was an effort to restore some of the faith that had been lost, although many remained skeptical of his motivations. Despite the steps they took to reconcile, there were still lingering doubts. Some congregants admired his willingness to acknowledge his flaws and take responsibility for his actions, while others viewed his efforts as little more than damage control. The gap between those who believed in his sincerity and those who questioned his integrity remained wide. As time went on, the couple's efforts to rebuild their marriage and ministry continued. Their relationship, once a beacon of partnership and unity, was now undergoing a profound transformation. There were moments of tenderness, moments of growth, but also moments of deep struggle. The scars of betrayal and emotional manipulation could not be erased overnight, but they were learning to navigate them together. Their journey wasn't just about healing their marriage, it was about rebuilding the trust that had been broken with their congregation. This was a long and challenging process, one that involved facing the painful truths of their past and working towards a future that was grounded in authenticity, transparency, and humility. For John and his wife, the future remained uncertain, but they were committed to facing it together, step by step. Strength isn't about never falling, she reflected, a sentiment that had become a mantra for them both. It's about rising every time you do, and sometimes the hardest part is just being honest with yourself. Their journey wasn't just about personal redemption, but also about showing their congregation that there could be healing after betrayal, reconciliation after division, and a renewed sense of purpose in the wake of scandal. Whether or not they would ultimately succeed in restoring their marriage and ministry remained to be seen, but for now, they chose to face the future together, no matter how difficult the road ahead might be. And so their story continues, not as a perfect narrative of success, but as a raw, honest account of two people seeking redemption in the face of their darkest moments.